Good morning. I'm calling today's hearing to order. My name is Jake Rice. I'm the Puget Sound Salmon Manager for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Oh, hold on a second, Jake. It's just now starting to let people in. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Just let me know then, Leah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll let you know when to start. So when attendees start to level out, and then you can start.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we can just leave it on this screen though and wait a second. Okay, Jake, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Good morning. I am calling today's hearing to order. My name is Jake Rice. I'm Puget Sound Salmon Manager for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Today's date is June 22nd, 2021. The time is 9:02 a.m. Due to the COVID pandemic, we are meeting today via Zoom webinar for a public hearing on proposed salmon fishing regulations for the 2021-2022 season for statewide recreational, coastal commercial, and Puget Sound commercial fisheries. We have a group of staff members here to brief you on the topic before you provide comments. In addition to myself, they are statewide salmon and steelhead manager Mark Baltzell and Columbia River Management Unit Lead Dr. Charlene Hurst. After the briefing, we will call on those who signed up to provide testimony during registration for the webinar individually, and then call for any additional individuals that may want to provide testimony. We will limit each person's comment period to 3 minutes. This is a generic APA, Administrative Procedure Act process. Today, we are at the public hearing step on the flow chart. Later slides will review the steps taken to get to this stage. The CR 101 is the public notification for considering rule changes on any certain subject. For salmon rulemaking, we have a very large public process that occurs between the 101 and the 102 filing, the north of Falcon process.
Hey, Jake, do you want to advance the slide?
It is.
Oh, we're still seeing the 2021, the fronts, the first slide.
Do you see, does it have north of Falcon process square in this one?
No, it's just still at the beginning slide.
No, I don't know, excuse me. Bear with me 1 second. Is that working okay?
Yes, that looks good, Jake.
Did that change?
Yes, it did.
Okay, sorry. Thank you so much. Apologies, everyone. The CR 101 is a public notification for considering rule changes on any certain subject. For salmon rulemaking, we have a very large public process that occurs between the 101 and the 102 filing, the north of Falcon process. The 102s that were filed already reflect a large amount of public input received through public meetings, web portal comments, and other input received through north of Falcon. Finally, the CR 103 is the proposed rules package that is based on comments from the public, including those we hear today, and edits to any mistakes within the CR 102. The Administrative Procedure Act, APA, Recreational Fisheries, the CR 101 was filed on January 5th, 2021 under WSR 2102079. The CR 102 was filed on May 19th, 2021 under WSR 2111-114. Written comments are due by close of business today, June 22nd, 2021. Puget Sound Commercial Fisheries, CR 101 was filed January 5th, 2021 under WSR 2102-078. CR 102 was filed on May 19th, 2021 under WSR 2111-109. Coastal Commercial Fisheries was filed under CR 101 on January 6th, 2021 under WSR 2102-082. CR 102 was filed on May 19th under WSR 2111-103. For our salmon management landscape, salmon don't honor political boundaries during their migration, so salmon fishery planning must happen at several jurisdictional levels. The Pacific Salmon Treaty sets limits on catch and interceptions of salmon from Southeast Alaska to southern U.S., Washington, Oregon primarily. As quotas are set for those fisheries each year, those catches must be factored in as they affect the number of fish returning to Washington. Fisheries in the economic exclusive zone off the West Coast from Washington to California are set by the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, PFMC. Fisheries in inside waters are planned through the North of Falcon process and under the legal framework of U.S. v. Washington and U.S. v. Oregon. Our North of Falcon process, a year-round process within 7 weeks of intensive preseason planning every spring. The annual cycle begins with data compilation and preseason forecast development each winter. The preseason planning of fisheries occurs through the North of Falcon process. Then implementation and monitoring of fisheries begins. Data collection from fisheries and annual stock assessment activities occur during and after fisheries, which feeds the cycle again. Fisheries developed must be consistent with the Pacific Salmon Treaty, Magnuson-Stevens Act, federal court decisions, ESA requirements, Fish and Wildlife Commission policies, and state law. The 2021 public meeting timeline started on February 25th with the Willapa Grace Harbor forecast meeting. Numerous meetings were held afterwards. February 26th, our 21 salmon forecast and fishing opportunities meeting. The first PFMC meeting, March 2nd through the 5th, April through the 11th, was split this year due to COVID and being all virtual. March 16th are statewide proposals. The 17th for the Columbia River and South Coast proposals. March 18th was our North of Falcon #1 meeting. March 23rd was our Puget Sound Recreational and Coastal Freshwater proposals. March 24th was our South Coast proposals. The 25th are our Puget Sound proposals again. March 30th was our second North of Falcon meeting, followed by March 31st our statewide proposals and North of Falcon plenary discussion. April 1 our Columbia River proposals. April 5th and 6th our South Coast proposals again. Our second PFMC meeting was held in early to mid-April. And then lastly, our April 12th meeting, Willapa and Grace Harbor proposals. Again, all these meetings were conducted virtually this year due to COVID-19. Our 2021 North of Falcon state and tribal meeting schedule began February 23rd with our co-manager technical model meeting, followed by our policy meeting on the 25th, PFC meeting #1 early in mid-March, our North of Falcon 1 coincided with March 18th and the 19th, our North of Falcon 2, March 30th through April 1st, and then our final PFMC meeting again early April and through mid-April. And all these meetings again were conducted virtually between the state and our tribal co-managers. Public comment was taken throughout the North of Falcon process via web portal as well as by email. Comment taken during the 102 comment period was collected via web portal and through our WDFW rules coordinator. Well, our 2021 challenges for this year: continuing COVID-19 outbreak and virtual meeting schedule, new WDFW Puget Sound staff in multiple positions, continued uncertain ocean conditions, poor expected returns of natural coho to some Puget Sound and coastal rivers, poor Chinook and steelhead forecast for the Columbia River, poor expected returns of chum to Puget Sound, ESA listed Puget Sound Chinook stocks at or below critical abundances, balancing harvest opportunity with conservation and ESA limits, allocation of harvest impacts between fisheries. Our 2021 COVID-19 public engagement, again, continued COVID-19 outbreak resulted in an all virtual meeting schedule, multiple meeting platforms, continued learning process for staff and also our public to adapt to each one. It allowed for more engagement with stakeholders that may not have been able to travel to in-person meetings. It allowed for very structured and orderly public comments and input at larger meetings. We're also able to record these meetings and provide those on our website this year. Errors in the CR 102 WAC language. A number of errors to the WAC language in the CR 102 filings have been identified since the language was formatted by Code Reviser's Order Typing Services for publication. Corrections for those orders will be identified as we move through fisheries by region. Here you will see the starting point for planning our 2021-22 fisheries based on last year's fisheries with this year's forecast. Below you will see some examples of our concerning stocks as they relate to exploitation rates, management objectives, and escapement goals. Attached, you'll see a table of proposed 2021-22 fisheries based on marine area and species. The table is color coordinated to represent the changes in types of fisheries. The black area is closed from last year's fishing package, and the yellow are areas in which fishing was added for the 21-22 season. Here are the proposed Puget Sound marine recreational areas. All of our marine and freshwater seasons and additional information is available on the WDFW website. Here you will find the proposed 2021 North Central Puget Sound freshwater recreational areas. Again, all of this is provided on our website for your viewing at any time. Here you'll find our 2021 Central South Puget Sound freshwater recreational areas. Errors in the CR 102 WAC language for Puget Sound recreational. WAC 220-313-060. Season end date for the Tulalip bubble fishery should be September 6th, not September 7th. WAC 223-13-060, corrected language for closure of hood sport hatchery structures and area inside buoys of Finch Creek except for ADA access site. WAC 220-312-040, corrected language to require release of pink salmon. 2021 Puget Sound commercial. South Sound chum fishing is unlikely. Fisheries are dependent on co-management agreement of appropriate harvest levels at given abundances and need and escape it levels. Any fishing opportunity will be dependent on the Appletove test fishery ICU results. Potential for increased effort in Hood Canal likely due to the lack of South Sound opportunity. Modified Bellingham Bay schedule for gill nap and purse seine due to the continued low chum forecast and gear conflicts during Chinook time period. Additional limited participation fishery for gillnet and purse seines in Marine Area 10 for pink salmon. Commercial opportunities in Area 8 continue to be restricted due to the impacts on stocks of concern. Here you'll find our proposed fishery packages ERs compared with their ER ceilings. Any change to fisheries proposed now would need to be impact neutral on stocks that are at their exploitation rate ceilings. 2021 US v. Washington co-management challenges. Lack of single tribal proposal for PFMC quota alternatives in March, and lack of proposal for single level for treaty troll fishery until final day of PFMC process. Time-sensitive nature of reaching agreement on fishery impact levels for submission to NOAA for ESA authorization. WDFW worked for advisors to develop new ideas for reducing impact of state fisheries on Stillaguama, Chinook, and recreational fisheries. Only remaining options were fishery reductions to reduce impacts to a level that would result in co-manager agreement or to walk away from negotiations, leaving a very uncertain path for obtaining ESA authorization and implementation of the 2021 fisheries. Challenges continued: marine and freshwater fisheries monitoring and enforcement, impacts to non-target species, continued conservation constraints of Washington salmon stocks that led to difficulty balancing state and tribal fisheries given forecasted low abundances, continued low forecasted chum returns, access abundant pink returns while staying within conservation constraints. Base period updates to FRAM model. Our coastal marine recreational or ocean fisheries. Quota season regulations for federal waters developed through PFMC process. Concurrent regulations have been adopted for state waters via emergency rule. Management objectives for stocks of concern. Lower Columbia, natural Thule, fall Chinook, maximum ER of 38%. Although there is a large abundance of hatchery coho expected to the Columbia, Washington coastal stocks, especially the Queets natural coho, remain at low abundance and limited quotas and seasons. Queets natural coho escapement floor is 5,800, and co-managers have agreed to a 2021 escapement objective of 3,435 for fishery shaping. 2021 quotas of just over 27,000 Chinook and 70,000 mark coho. Recreational fishing is scheduled to open June 19th in all areas. All areas close September 15th or when quota is met. Open periods retention rules may vary by CRC area. Errors in the CR 102 WAC language for coastal marine recreational fisheries. WAC 220-313-070. For CRC, area 22 west of buoy 13 line, area should be open concurrent with the Grays Harbor control zone portion of area 2 as specified in WAC 220-313-075. These are coastal freshwater recreational fisheries. Again, all of these fisheries and other information is located on the DFW website for your viewing. Again, a continued of our coastal freshwater recreational fisheries. All of this information is available for your viewing at any time on our website. The 2021 Coastal Fisheries Management Objectives. Grays Harbor, no directed recreational Chehalis spring Chinook fishery. Forecast of 1,082 fish is below the escapement goal of 1,400 fish. Mount tulips and Chehalis natural origin coho limited to a 5% impact rate, have not met goal 3 out of the last 5 years. All other stocks managed to meet escapement goals, 50-50 sharing between treaty and non-treaty fisheries. Willapa Bay, fall Chinook, actively managed not exceed 20% of total impacts for natural Oregon Chinook on Willapa River. Actively managed to not exceed 20% total impacts for natural origin Chinook on the Nassau River. Fall Chum, meet the aggregate spawning escapement goal of 35,400 naturally spawning chum. Fall Coho, meet the aggregate spawning escapement goal of 13,600 natural Oregon coho. Forecast of 19,040 natural Oregon coho and 5,440 harvestable. These are the coastal marine recreational seasons as proposed. Again, season information is available on our website, and any comments are due by the close of business today. These are the coastal freshwater fisheries as proposed. And again, comments will be taken through the close of business today. Our 2021 coastal commercial fisheries for Grays Harbor. Our 2021 coastal commercial fisheries for Willapa Bay. And now I'd like to turn it over to our Columbia River Management Unit Lead, Dr. Charlene Hurst, who will speak on the Columbia River. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch, Jake. So in 2021, for the Columbia River season development, our starting point was to compare the 2021 forecast to the conservation objectives that we have in a variety of agreements, USC Oregon, PFMC, our Commission Policy 3630, and recent year fisheries. So this slide and the next one really details the forecast that we've had compared to the 5-year average. Sorry, Jake, go back one. For a variety of our species. And so for the Upper Columbia, the forecast there was above normal, about 18,000 more than the 5-year average. For sockeye, we're looking about below normal, at about 50,000 below the 5-year average. For sockeye, we also planned our main stem fisheries around the allowable 1% harvest rate. And for upriver summer steelhead, we have 2 index stocks there. We have A index with a forecast of about 89,000, a B index of a forecast about 7,600. Both are low compared to the 5-year average, well, at least for B index, which is about 15,000 less than the 5-year average. So the non-treaty share for both of those index stocks is limited to 2%. And the run sizes are similar to what we've seen in previous years with low returns. And in those years, we've had fisheries that resulted in closures and harvest restrictions. And so you'll see some of that going forward. Next slide, please, Jake. Thank you. The three other stocks we have on this page are the upriver bright fall Chinook. They're forecasted to come in above normal compared to the 5-year average. And we have planned our main stem fisheries in the Columbia River to the full allowable harvest rate of 15%. For our lower river hatchery Tule fall Chinook, the forecast there is also above normal compared to the 5-year average, about 8,000 fish higher. And we are planning our fisheries there to a total exploitation rate of 38%. And for the coho forecast, we have a very high forecast for coho this year, about 1.3 million fish to the river mouth compared to the 5-year average of about 225,000. And we are planning our lower river fisheries to not exceed our allowable harvest rate of 18%. Next slide, please. So we just pulled out a few key Columbia River seasons. We have our summer Chinook fisheries retention will be allowed, and we'll have a limited steelhead sockeye fishery as well from the mouth to Priest Rapids Dam. Our fall Chinook, we have a full season objectives are expected to be achieved by sub area. And we will manage fisheries on a 1 Chinook daily limit. And we also have in-season management through our compact process to make modifications in season. Of note is that the Cowlitz and Tilton rivers in the lower Columbia will be closed to Chinook retention because we have low anticipated returns there in those two rivers. The steelhead fishery, like I mentioned, is similar to the previous years. And so we will be having a salmon steelhead night closures, a one hatchery steelhead limit when it is open, and lower reaches of specific tributaries do reflect the main stem regulations. And we have some additional alignment with Oregon in concurrent waters. This includes closing salmon and steelhead fisheries in the Youngs Bay closure zone on the Oregon side. And our directed delegation for 2021 noted that barbless hooks are required when fishing for salmon and steelhead in concurrent waters. Okay. So the next 4 slides are just going to run through seasons by species we have for our summer Chinook season in the Upper Columbia. We have a couple of sections there, and there's a map in the lower corner to hopefully help orient people. But you can find Priest Rapids kind of in the, I don't know, the middle part of the map. Next slide, please, Jake. We also have our sockeye fishery. We have a bunch of areas here based on certain landmarkers. So you can find all this information, as Jake mentioned, on our website for the detailed seasons. This is for fall Chinook here. And then, of course, we have our steelhead seasons as well.
Thank you very much, Charlene. Thank you. Our Regulatory Fairness Act. Statewide recreational rules are exempt from RCW Chapter 19.85 because the rules do not regulate small businesses. They regulate individuals who undertake recreational fishing activities. Puget Sound and coastal commercial rules are exempt from RCW Chapter 19.85 because the regulations do not impose direct cost of regulatory compliance. Rather, they clarify dates for anticipated open periods and areas for fisheries and legal gear requirements for those fisheries. So we will be taking public comment now shortly. We will begin taking public comment with those that identified themselves as wanting to provide testimony when registering for the webinar. We will call on you and unmute you when it is your turn. We will use raise hand function for anyone else wishing to provide comment once those registered are finished. Again, we will call on you and unmute you when it is your turn. Please state your name, which fishery rules you are providing comment on as you begin. Time will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. Public comment is also taken through the close of business today on our website. Please visit our website to leave any written comments. And at this time, we'll open up for public comments.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mark Baltzell. Leah Snyder, could I ask you, did anyone register to provide public comment through the website registration?
There was no one that registered that wanted to provide when they registered.
Okay.
Great.
With that, is there anyone online now that would like to provide any testimony or comment? Please raise your hand at this time and we'll call on you.
Again, for folks who may be new to this, there's a raised hand feature at the bottom of the application that you can use. If you're on a phone, which I don't think anybody is, I believe it's *9 to raise your hand.
Just curious if any members of the staff or panel have noticed anyone with a raised hand.
I have not seen any raised hands.
Okay. Modifications to the 102 will be based on input from written comments and comments from the hearing today. WDFW will then file the CR 103 and concise explanatory statement, CES. Changes to regulations will be considered, but must consider magnitude of changes, whether their impact is neutral on stock impacts, whether they would require consulting with co-managers, and whether they would trigger the need to consult with NOAA and or the need for NOAA to reevaluate their biological opinion ESA authorization for 2021 fisheries. I just want to do one last check in case there were any more public comments that may have come through or raised hands. If not, then I close this public hearing at 9:27 on June 22nd, 2021. And I thank you everybody for your time.